Y equals mx plus b. Okay. This whole chapter is about linear equations, but this form of a linear equation is the easiest to graph. It's called slope-intercept form. Why is it called slope-intercept form? Okay, because the number in front of the x tells you the slope, and the number that's added or subtracted out here tells you the y-intercept. So on Friday we did slope. Can it get a little bit warm in here?
No. What?
No? Me?
What? It's warm here?
Yeah.
It is warm in here. Where y'all?
I swear, you say that every class. You guys are going to
I don't say it every class, I just say it
You're
occasionally.
not in here every class.
My haircut is snazzy.
Nice. Alright. So remember, slope tells you the rise and the run. That's what we did on Friday. Now we're going to put it to use. So if I had an equation like this, I could graph it. Do you guys remember what we start with when we're graphing these?
You go up one, you go up one, and
Okay, no, you start actually at the y-intercept. So where is this going to cross the y-axis?
-1.
-1. This is the y-axis, so you kind of start on this line. It starts at -1. The line's going to go through there. And then this is the slope. Slope tells us what over what? Rise over run. So we're going to rise 1 and run 2. So rise 1, positive 1 means up, and run 2 is to the right. And I'm just going to have you do a couple of those so you can do it again. Rise 1, run 2, and that would be the line. You can also go backwards. Did you guys know this? 1 over 2 is equal to -1 over -2. So you could rise -1 and run -2. And you see how that's on the same line? Sometimes it's easier to graph if you go backwards. So yeah, anyway, if you go rise 1, run 2, going backwards should give you a point on the same line. Okay, here's where we usually get in trouble. Okay, so where do I start at? Up 3. That's the y-intercept, +3, 0, 3. Okay, and where am I going? So -2 is not a fraction, so how do I turn -2 into a fraction? -2 over 1. So the rise is -2, and the run is 1. So that'd be 1 to the right. Remember, negative lines should be falling from left to right. So down 2, run 1. Or if you go backwards, -2 over 1 is the same thing as 2 over -1. So you could rise 2 and run -1. And it's still on the same line. I'm just going to have you guys make 3 points. That should be good enough. Only 6 of these are graphs, however. I maybe should have done a couple more, but I cut them out. All right, number 1. What is the slope on number 1, and what is the y-intercept? Chase, do you know what the slope is on number 1?
3x.
Okay, not the x,
3 over 1.
just the 3. And you don't have to write it in fraction form right now. Say m equals 3. I don't know why they use m for slope, but they do. What is the y-intercept? Where's it going to cross the y-axis? 4. They write it in ordered pair form, like 0, 4. So if you write it in that form, it's always going to be 0 something, because that's where it is on the graph, 0, 4. Okay, number 3, this is kind of a trick one, it says y equals negative x. So what is the slope?
-1 of
Right.
1.
What number is in front of the x? There's an invisible 1, so it's -1. What is the y-intercept?
0.
Yeah. There's no number out here, so that's like a 0. So it's going to cross the y-axis at 0 or 0, 0. It's windy.
What about for number 4?
No.
Yes.
Mr. Jordan. What about for number 4?
Okay, on number 4, it just says y equals 6. And there's no x value, so what do you guys think the slope is?
0.
Yeah, it's kind of like there is no x, so it's like y equals 0x plus 6. So the slope is 0, the y-intercept is... I don't suppose you guys remember Friday what the line y equals... I think on Friday we graphed like y equals 2 or something like that. Remember what the graph looked like? Looks like this. All the y values that are 2 are up here. Anyway, slope is 0. It's going to go through the y-axis at 6. Number 5. All right, 5 through 8 is matching. So, what kind of slope let's just look at A for a second. What kind of slope does A have? Positive. A has a positive slope because the line is going up from left to right. B has a negative slope. What kind of y-intercept does A have? Is it positive or negative? Positive, because it's crossing the y-axis above the x-axis. So up here, the y-axis is positive. So anyways, on number 5, it says y equals 2x. So it has a positive slope, like A. However, the y-intercept is -1. So which graph has a positive slope, but might have a -1 y-intercept? C. Just like A, C has a positive slope. The line is going up from left to right, but it's crossing the y-axis down below. So C, the only one that can match. Now number 7 says y equals -2x, so it has a negative slope. So which graphs have a negative slope?
B and D.
B and D. And the y-intercept is +1. So option B is crossing the y-axis up above. Positive, so B. All right, number 9 is graphing. We don't have to make a table with this. I think it's easier than the tables, or faster at least. +4. On your graphs, if you go like, most of the time if you go like 5 in every direction, should be good. 5 right, 5 up, 5 down, 5 left, so. And there's 6 graphs, so just make sure you can fit 6 on there. All right, where are we going to start this graph at?
4.
Up 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And where are we going to go from there?
Down 2 over 1.
Yeah, we're going to rise -2 to down 2 and run +1. You can't make them both negative, or else that would actually be like a positive slope. Go down 2, right 1, down 2, right 1. dots like every time in this chapter. You guys good? All right, number 11. Y equals negative 1/4 x plus 5. Having too much fun over there. All right. Where am I going to start this graph at? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And where am I going?
Down 1, back 4.
Okay. Okay. If the slope is negative, does that mean both of these are negative?
No, just the line.
A negative over negative actually equals a positive. So they can't both be negative. So negative 1/4 equals negative 1/4 or 1 over negative 4. Negative divided by negative is positive. So one of them being negative makes it negative. So you can kind of do either of these. Usually I just do this one. So rise negative 1, run 4. Positive 4. Rise negative 1, run positive 4. Now, if I did that again, it would go off my graph, which is not that bad, but I can also go backwards. I can run basically this one. Run positive 1 rise positive 1, run negative 4. Basically just do the opposite and it's on the same line. Fits on the graph a little bit better.
Mr. Jordan, so would 12 just be all numbers that work out of like -2, but any x value because there's no zero? So would it be like
Yeah. So on 12, where do y values equal negative 2 at? Where do y values equal negative 2? This is 0, negative 2. This is 1, negative 2, 2, negative 2, negative 1, negative 2. So all the y values that are negative 2 are down here. So you go down 2 on the y-axis and draw a horizontal line. Y equals always looks like this. Looks like they didn't put it on today's, but what if they had said x equals?
it would just be line up and
That's right. Like x equals 1, for example, you go over to 1 on the x-axis. All these points have an x value of 1. So it's just a vertical line through 1 on the x-axis. But they didn't ask that today. They're going to ask it later, I'm sure. 13. Okay, where am I going to start this graph at?
Up to.
Up to. They didn't give us any negatives on those. Must be on the odds. Or evens, I mean. 10 is a negative, 14 is not, just 1. Alright, anyway, the slope is positive 2/3. So we're going to rise 2 and run 3. Rise 2, run 3. Was anybody else going on Friday besides Trace and Allie? Of course, Bailey was. You were gone. You haven't done that assignment yet, have you?
No.
How many graphs did we have on?
None.
Huh?
None. Because you didn't put that in the-
Okay, that's right. Yeah, I still forgot, but anyways. So rise 2, run 3. We could also go backwards, like rise -2, run -3. So it's right there. Yeah, on RenWeb Friday said 1 through 28, but we only did 1 through 24. Okay, number 15. This is not graphing. Three x plus y. Okay, so what they're telling us to do, write each equation in slope-intercept form, then state the slope and y-intercept. We kind of did this last week. Slope-intercept form, you just have to make it say y equals, so we need to solve for y. So how do I get rid of this added 3x?
Minus 3x.
Minus 3x.
Negative 3x plus 5.
Okay, so that goes away. We have y on the left side. Remember this from last week. Instead of writing 5 minus 3x, which does not mix, I had you guys write minus 3x plus 5. Once you change the slope-intercept form, it's a lot easier to graph. All right, what is the slope? -3. What is the y-intercept?
5.
I'll put 0, 5. If you wrote like y-intercept equals 5, I wouldn't cut that wrong. It's true. The water bottle's really pretty.
Yeah, I like mine. I don't like his.
My mom
It's
got
the
mine
same.
That was the same, but yours is good and his isn't.
Yeah.
All right. Same thing, solving for y. How do I get y by itself?
Minus 1x.
Yeah, you want to get rid of the added value first. X is added. You're going to subtract x. (14 minus x). Instead of that, I'm going to write minus x plus 14. Then what do I do?
Divide by 7.
Okay, remember on this, you have to divide everything by 7. Kind of like distributive property.
So it'd be x over 7 minus 2.
Not quite. We did one of these last week. What's the invisible number right here? 1. Now, technically, it's negative x over 7, but we're going to write it like so you can see the slope. So the slope is -1/7, and then the x outside the fraction. And then the 14 over 7, that does divide. 14 divided by 7 is 2. Maybe I should have done 22. I'll make 22 bonus. It's not that bad. It will confuse people because of the letters, but 8x minus 3y equals 9. Okay. Minus 8x. this time, the left side still has a negative 3y. Okay, divide by negative 3. Right. Okay, these don't divide well, so we're just going to leave it as a fraction. But what's the negative divided by negative?
Positive.
Positive. So y equals positive 8/3.
X minus 3.
Right. 9 divided by negative 3 is negative 3.
Minus
If you put plus negative 3, that is technically correct, but that's just the same thing as minus 3. Are you sick?